Okay, so welcome folks to our annual general meeting. Maybe we can just have the lights up just a little bit for a second there. Actually, we can leave the lights up for this because we've got to be able to see who's voting. That would be awesome. What I'd like to do right now is just have a show of hands of members. We just need to do a count. We need 20.5 members. Okay, we got more than enough. That's good. We have quorum. Thank you. Even a half member. Okay, moving on. So we are doing this jointly on Zoom and in person. For those on Zoom, please use the Q&A box to ask questions. Remind you that chat box comments can be seen by all, and raise your hand is disabled. Next. So the RASC Ottawa Centre acknowledges the trust placed in us by our First Nations with their ancestral lands and sky. This is tonight's program. You just have to put up with me for this first part, and then I turn it over to my Aussie cousin here, who will take on the rest of the meeting. Good eye. Good eye, he says. Okay. Moving on then. So in order to vote here today, we're welcome visitors that are here with us. But if you are a member and we do have a vote, please raise your hand with your pink card so that we can do our count. We've got some particularly complex legal things that we have to do tonight, so we have to have an accurate count. So it may take a moment. Andre is going to be our scrutineer for this. And maybe if you can turn up the lights on the audience a little bit more, just so she can see a little bit better, that would be great. These guys here, the lights there, just light up the audience. The slides are we can still see them. Okay, perfect. Okay, the persons on Zoom, you folks can vote as well. Chris has polls set up for the motions. Next slide. So here's the agenda. We have confirmed that we do have quorum. We're going to bring up the agenda and seek your approval of this agenda. The approval of the minutes, the reports, the President and Treasurer's reports. We're going to hopefully get approval for the articles of amendment, the bylaws, and the motion related to auditing. Then we have our election of councillors, the presentation of awards, and any other business. So moving on, in terms of the agenda, do we have a slide for that, Chris? Or okay, so I need somebody to move the agenda, and I can't see everybody out here because the lights are in my eye. Shout out your name. So I see Oscar. Sorry, Brian McCullough has seconded that. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Carried. You would have received, as part of your notice from Chris, the meetings from the previous meeting. They have been reviewed as well by council, and I need somebody to move the acceptance of those minutes. Sorry? Gordon Lewis. Mick Wilson seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. President's report. So it's been my pleasure to serve you as president during 2024. It was an exciting year in terms of astronomical events. It was very rare to have total solar eclipse within driving distance of Ottawa, and many members actively participated in outreach for this event. Andrea Jarons graciously donated 3,000 solar eclipse glasses. That's just amazing. Simon Hamler held a neighborhood watch party and was on CBC on the day of the eclipse. Dave Chisholm, myself, visited many schools teaching eclipse safety and built 4 solar eclipse projection viewers, 2 that were given to the Canadian Aviation and Space Museum. One was loaned to Simon, and I took one down to Kingston. A number of other members are also active on local media channels promoting eclipse safety. With the sun in its active cycle, we were treated to some amazing aurora displays, and in particular the Friday of the Mother's Day weekend. It happened to coincide with our public star party in Carp, which resulted in an unexpected influx of visitors. Thanks to Katie Francis and the Ottawa Police and the rest of the Star Party team in managing the event. We continue to meet at Canadian Aviation and Space Museum in person, with Zoom available for those who cannot make it. Zoom has remained very popular, with about one half of our attendees joining us virtually. The other advantage to Zoom is that we can bring in speakers from all over the world to present at our monthly meetings. Thanks to the efforts of Katie Francis, we're able to have successful star parties at the Diefenbunker and Carp. The weather cooperated for the most part in 2024. The Fred Lawson Observatory continues to be popular with our membership. Thank you to Rick Scholes and the myriad of volunteers for their continued support in keeping this facility running smoothly. Rick could always use some more volunteers on the upkeep of the property. You may have received an email from him today. He's going to need help with snow removal around the buildings on Sunday. We continue our outreach efforts to scouts, guides, libraries, and the general public. Thank you to Acer Alguindi for his continued support as our outreach coordinator. Apart from my keen interest in astronomy, the main reason I keep active in the Royal Astronomical Society is the people. We have some amazing people in our centre who are willing to volunteer their knowledge in so many ways. Later, I'll recognize one of these volunteers for their ongoing support of the Ottawa Centre. Your council spent significant time this year working on updating our bylaws and regulations to comply with the new Ontario government's Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, or ONCA. The result of this work will be presented today for your approval. As I finish my term as president, I'd like to thank the members of the council for their guidance and support over these last 2 years. I'll move into the past president role for the next 2 years, and I look forward to working with the new council. And as I conclude this report, I'd like to recognize RASC Ottawa Centre members who have passed away in this last year, particularly Attila Danko, Roger Taguchi, Kent Goranson, who was the former owner of Focus Scientific, and Mark Klitzum, who died in 2023, but we just learned about this recently. Clear skies. Next slide. Treasurer's report.
Okay, good evening, and this will be the last of my financial reports because we've managed to find another volunteer, Marie Mello, to take over the treasurer position for next year. So I hope you'll support her in her work on the financials. So here is the statements for the end of the fiscal year, which ended in September 30th, 2024. Do I have the button or? Yes, here it is. Got it. As usual, you approved last year Paul Sadler to be our reviewer, and he's just completed the review of the previous year's financial records and found that they were all in good shape. Thank you very much, Paul. For this year, this is an overview and comparison of our income for the year, September 30th, 2024, compared with 1 year ago in September 30th, 2023. So you see that our membership revenue is up. We've had quite a few new members and a lot of renewals. So we're well over budget on the membership revenue. We have restarted the dinner meetings, so we did get more revenue for the sale of tickets. That's why that number is particularly higher. And we were tremendously well endowed with donations this year. A lot of cash donations, but a huge bequest from a deceased member. So we have a very, very large amount of donations. So because of that, you'll see as I go on, I've kind of separated out the equipment donation and the equipment costs from the other ongoing and regular revenue and expenses. For the other income, that includes things like interest on our investments. And again, that's increased this year because the interest rates suddenly went quite a lot higher than they were previously. So our total income is very, very good, 41,000. But even without the equipment donations, our regular income did increase by quite a lot this year, up to 20,723, compared with 13,648 for the previous year. For the expenses, we did a loss on our dinner meeting. We had, restarting it up after COVID, we were a little bit concerned that we would have to re-encourage people to meet again in person. Fortunately, we did that fairly well. But even so, we did decide as a council to partially subsidize the rates for the annual dinner meeting. So that's why the cost of the goods sold, the dinner in particular, was more than what we brought in on the ticket sales. However, that was offset by some particular donations that we did get. I've broken out also, because of some questions from last year, the Fred Lossing Observatory. There are a number of different expenses concerning that operation, including things like the hydro, the snow clearing, equipment maintenance, and things like that. As it turned out, this year was quite a lot cheaper than last year, mostly because it didn't snow much last winter. So we got a break on that one. It doesn't look so good for this year, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. So the total regular expenses came out to 21,979, which meant that we've had an overall loss this year of about $1,200. Now, the other thing that's included in that operating expenses is the cost of the lawyer that we had to hire to help us with these bylaw changes. And that's a kind of one-off thing. We certainly don't expect this to be happening every year. So it really isn't a cause for worry that we came in with a deficit this year on the ongoing costs because of that lawyer extra fee. The depreciation on our equipment continues to be fairly large. We have quite a substantial amount of equipment, and a lot of it is fairly recent vintage, so it is depreciated. We generally depreciate that equipment over a 10-year cycle. So having quite a bit of depreciation means that, we really have a lot of equipment assets, and they are fairly valuable. So the total expenses, including the equipment expenses, was 28,459. And because of the large equipment donations, we come out ahead in the long run. So we've had a surplus increase in our overall assets of 12,784 this year. So this is the state of our assets right now. We have monetary assets of about 72,640. A lot of that is in GICs that roll over every year and generate interest income. The capital assets are the equipment and some of the buildings and structures at FLO. So because of these new donations that came in this year, our total assets have increased quite substantially, up to 106,676. Our liabilities, not too much. We had some sales of things that we hadn't actually sold yet. For example, people started buying their calendars and annual dinner tickets for the coming year already in the previous fiscal year. So that was what the current liabilities are. And the retained earnings are what we have in our possession. So that all balances out quite accurately there. So on the whole, we remain quite viable financially. The membership revenue and regular donations from members that come in are balanced quite well with our regular ongoing expenses. When we do have some sales of some kind, like the calendars, we balance that out. We charge you what we have to pay for those things. So we're not trying to run an organization with any kind of profit here. We're just trying to give our membership the benefits of what they pay for in their membership fees and also make in donations. Where we come out ahead, we are getting a lot of very generous donations of equipment. And I think the problem we have more than ever is how can we get that to the public? How can we make that equipment available to people who are interested in astronomy? And if you have any ideas for projects where we could do more outreach, more benefit to the public, we'd be very welcome to hear about those ideas and see if we can get something happening. Of course, always that requires some volunteer time as well. So we would be happy to have more volunteers working together on getting some astronomy happening here in Ottawa. Any questions about these financial statements? This year, it was on the order of, I think it was $800. Last year, it was more like 2,000 because we actually paid for some of the door prizes and such. Sorry, this question was about how much was the subsidy for the annual dinner meeting.
Yes, thank you. I was just curious about the difference in the price per ticket, what we paid and what did the center pay to top it up? Thank you.
So the difference in this year that I'm reporting about, the 2024, so that's the 2023 annual dinner meeting because it happened in November. The subsidy was about $2,000 on that. But as I say, some of the expenses there were, again, trying to encourage more people to attend by paying for some of the door prizes. This year, we didn't pay for any of the door prizes. They were all generously donated by people. Thank you very much. And so the subsidy was about $800. I think it came out to be $12 per ticket. Any other questions? Good.
I'll just add that in last year's dinner meeting, we also paid an honorarium to our speaker, whereas this year it was completely on a volunteer basis. So we saved I don't know, like $500 or $600 on that. Anyone else?
Any others? Okay, as I say, this was an overview, a summary of the financial report. If any of you would like to see the full details of the income statement and the balance sheet, I brought one paper copy with me tonight, but you are quite welcome to give me your email and I will email you the PDF copies of the full detailed report if you want to look at it in more detail. So we do have to have a motion to approve the financial statements. Oscar and Paul.
Yeah, he's having trouble with the slides, so just give them that.
Okay. We're going back. Yes, it's this one. So. Okay, so we had Oscar moving that motion and Paul Cloninger seconding. All in favor? Opposed?
And please pause there now.
Okay.
For the two members.
Okay, so we can say that's approved unanimously. Thank you very much. And I think that's all for me then.
So thank you, Richard, for all your work as treasurer, and we really appreciate it. Moving on, then we have the consideration and approval of the articles of amendment. You would have received all of those in advance of the meeting, well in advance of the meeting. And the council has approved these. And so I need somebody to, I will move, believe I can I move a motion? Sure. Okay, I'm going to move acceptance of these. Got to get a seconder. Jonathan King, thank you. All those in favor? We need to count this vote, so if you can just keep your hands up for a moment, please. $39? So 40 in favor. Thank you. 41 in favor if we count Mick. Yeah, is anybody against? No. Chris is going to do the online polls and he will confirm those in just a minute. 16 out of 16, so it's been approved unanimously. Thank you, folks. My clicker's not working here, Chris, so I'll get you to move to the next slide. Okay, then we had the General Operating Bylaw, and it's moved by we did a minor amendment to the text that was sent out. We have missed this in the original text that allows councillors to also be national council representatives, and this was approved by council. So I move to approve this the General Operating Bylaw number 2. Do I have a seconder? Mick, Mick? Okay. So all those in favor? $41. All those opposed? No, okay, so it's unanimously approved by folks in here. Chris is going to check online. Chris is having a few technical challenges here. We have 16 out of 16. Mick can see it on his computer, so we're good on that one. Oh, it's the wrong poll. Sorry. $16 out of 16. Okay, good stuff. Okay, so next slide, please, Chris. Okay, because we fall under these new ONCA laws, if we have to have in the past, we could just appoint somebody to look at our books, and now we have to say this person is not an auditor. If we say it's an auditor, then we have to bring in a chartered accountant and it costs us thousands of dollars. And Paul's done such an amazing job doing this over the years that this is what's called an extraordinary resolution. And we have to have an approval of 75%. Is that right, Chris? 80%. Okay. So it is moved by myself not to appoint an auditor and not to have an audit or a review engagement, and that Paul Sadler be appointed to scrutinize the financial records for the 2024 and 2025 financial year. Okay, so I've moved that. Seconder? Okay, Richard Taylor. All those in favor? We're going to need to count, so I think we're good, but we need an actual number. Okay, 40 in favor, and any against? We have one against. Okay, so that's fine. We did get the 80%. Chris, if you can check online. 17 out of 17, so that motion has passed. Let me try the clicker again, see if it works. Okay, now for the election of council. In order to, what we do is that we ask for nominations ahead of the meeting. And I can say that the nominating committee by Stephen Norris was able to put forward a slate of people. This is the names. There's not any more than one name per position. And because the nominations closed 48 hours ago, I can say that they're all acclaimed. So congratulations. These are the proposed appointed positions. These are appointed by council. If you are interested in any of those positions, please speak to your councillors, and I'm sure they'd be happy to have you assist in any of these roles here. We're still looking for somebody to do hospitality. Hospitality involves having some soft drinks, cookies, and coffee for folks at the end of the meeting. We haven't had that for a while. Since we've come back here at RASC. So we're going to move into the award section. So our values are sharing knowledge and experience, collaboration and fellowship, enrichment of our community through diversity, and discovery through the scientific method. So I'm going to turn this over to Mick. You got yours there? So I think I've got one here too. Let's put them all in here.
Alrighty. Hi there. The Paul Commission Observer of the Year Award. This is awarded at my discretion as speaking chair or speaking coordinator, facilitator. And it is not in recognition of who takes the most images, who has the biggest telescope, who does the most presentations at the meeting. The emphasis is on the communication side of things. The so what? What is the science that is being communicated through these images? What's the relevance of them? And how, in a sense, scientifically, are those results being communicated? Of course, if it ain't written down, it never happened, as accountants like to say. And so the skills that are being brought forward in this award recognise technical excellence and dedication to the task, but also the annotation and documentation that's required to actually give legitimacy to what would otherwise just be pretty pictures. And so, oh, actually said that. Okay, and so moving past the petty pictures, how do we interpret the intent of the award? Good science and good public engagement, and providing examples from which others can learn. And so one of our most prolific contributors in all those regards, Jim Thompson. Act surprised, Jim. Photo opportunity. Cheers, mate. You have to act surprised. Well deserved, Jim. Okay, the Rolf Meyer Award. This was initiated a number of years back after Rolf's death with the blessings of his wife, and originally was specified as an award to the Planetary Observer of the Year. Again, with all these criteria about it's not just pretty pictures and technical excellence, but also about communication. In looking at the submissions for this year, it struck me that there was an irony that Rolf Meyer, who was a prolific discoverer of comets, and in fact the first discoverer of comet on Canadian soil by a Canadian back in 1967 or thereabout, using the RASC telescope, or the North Mountain telescope as it was, wouldn't be eligible for his own award because it was restrained to planetary stuff. And so with a bit of discussion and the blessing from council, broadened the scope this year to solar system objects. So it could include aurorae, meteors, comets, eclipses, and so on, not just the planets, asteroids, meteors. And so, Jim Sophia, who again has to act surprised. Photo opportunity. Good, thank you. Well done, Jim. And okay, presentation of the year. Don't think I need to rattle through the criteria again. What's the combination of the science, the storytelling, and the so whattedness of any of the multitude of presentations that we get up here in the course of a year? It's over 100. And so picking one of those is difficult. It's very difficult, and a certain I don't know, scrutiny has to apply in order to come up with a fair decision. And for me, this year, I believe that Malcolm Lawrow's presentation on narrowband astrophotography hit all the buttons, all the criteria. Act surprised. Act surprised. And for those of you who somehow have been hiding in a burrow for the last couple of weeks, the proof in the pudding, and this happened only after I'd made my decision, was that Malcolm was also selected for the astrophoto of the day, the NASA APOD, 2 weeks ago, and for exactly the same image that he presented during that presentation. So obviously I'm not completely stupid. Thank you. Okay. Image of the year, Oscar. And we don't have it in there, I don't think. No, okay. It's a bit of a shame we don't have the specific image for which Oscar's being recognised here, but it was absolutely beautiful shot with such dynamic range and detail. Absolutely outstanding. You saw it on the front cover of any of the magazines or websites, you'd say that's exceptional. So congratulations, mate. And Doug. Well, you can just yell it out.
Well, I have a note from, I ordered that note from Gordon.
No. Yeah.
So I better do that.
But don't say you're repeating it, otherwise people
Oh,
won't
sorry.
act surprised.
Because he should know these by now. So, on behalf of Gordon, you know that he's, recovering and doing quite well. So he'd like to thank, everybody who submitted articles for this last year. Our newsletter thrives on your submissions. He's always amazed at the range of topics that are completely relevant, from travel pieces to light pollution to weather phenomena to geology. Forgive the pun, but the range is truly astronomical. I don't know if I will forgive him for that one, but okay. So an example of this is 3 of the more prominent articles this year. Article on the May aurora, Jim Thompson's article on sunspots, and my own on my visit to Prague. I almost selected one of these truly informative pieces, but there's something that was haunting him for a while. So he's going to break with convention and reach back to an article that embodies everything the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada represents. Basically, we are observers, occasionally citizen scientists. Some approach to observing with scientific curiosity, some with artistic beauty of the cosmos in mind, some with the hope of contributing to our collective understanding of life and the universe and everything else. The author of this article, and indeed the article itself, encompasses all of these things. The article is based on an observation that showed something unexpected and sparked a very deep and thorough dive into what was happening and what led to an unusual observation. The article was so well written and researched. It was full of graphs, charts, diagrams, original photos that clearly demonstrate what went on and why. And you know, I know that the author of this also did it in collaboration with another member. I'm sure most of you will remember this article in 2021, and if you don't remember or haven't read it, I encourage you to do so. It was, different articles from different kinds of things from Rick Scholes' fabulous series of articles, but the one that he's specifically referring to and giving the award to is Paul Clindinger. So his article on exploring the lunar South Polar Mountains from the April 2021 issue. So congratulations, Paul.
I really appreciate this from Gordon there, and it was very unexpected. But I did want to take a moment to highlight something that we've talked about in the center for the last little while, and something I really encourage you to look at. For those members that are doing a lot of imaging or just exploring visually, the article that's referred to here was an exciting piece that I wrote 3 years ago, but I did it in collaboration with Jim Thompson. It turned into something that it was a bit of a rabbit hole that we went down, because Jim saw the image, and Jim does a lot of lunar imaging as well, and so we started comparing notes on things, and that just really got our interest going. Jim dived in as well and did a lot of computational modeling. He developed a really interesting technique for mapping odd features on the moon, things, especially what we were talking about here, which was a feature almost at the south pole of the moon, which is actually very difficult to observe. But he did some computer modeling, which in turn linked to the observations that I'd made. And so we were able to identify the objects in question, which actually are some of the highest mountains on the moon, right near the South Pole, and targets of interest for the coming Artemis mission, where we want to put people on the moon pretty much in that location. So Jim Thompson and I went haywire on this stuff and spent a lot of time doing the research and developing the story. I also wanted to acknowledge Andrew Brown, who was also interested in what we were doing here, because he saw the work that we were compiling, and he happened to take an image of the moon at the same time that Jim had developed his modeling of the lunar features based on spacecraft data. And the image was a dead ringer for Jim's model. So it was a three-way collaboration. And that's what I wanted to highlight with this is we talked about, you know, looking at doing collaborations with fellow observers, people of the same interest and such, because it enriches us. Neither Jim or I knew where we were going when we started doing this, and we got like crazy geekly excited about what was falling out of this. So I encourage anybody that's involved in doing observations or imaging to talk to people that may have the same line of interest that you're doing and dive into it and see what you can get out of it. So thank you very much, Jim, and thank you very much, Andrew.
So it is my pleasure as president to present the Service Award for Sustained Exemplary Service to the RASC Ottawa Centre. We do a lot of public outreach. We outreach to scouts and guides, libraries, seniors, and the general public. And one of our members here has been very key in coordinating this. And I would like to recognize Acer Alguindi for his continued support as our outreach coordinator. And then the President's Award. And this year I'm recognizing one of our volunteers here for his ongoing support of the Royal Astronomical Society Ottawa Centre. This person has been very active for many years. Since he joined in 2009, he's had many roles within the centre. Most recently, he has coordinated the member-only star parties at the Fred Lawson Observatory and has been editor of our local astronauts newsletter. I'm pleased to announce that Gordon Webster will be has received the RASC Ottawa Centre's President's Award. And I actually went to visit Gordon in the hospital. For those of you who don't know, he's had a triple bypass and he's recovering. And so I went to visit him in the hospital and presented the award to him in person, and he was very pleased. Paul, is there any other business? Just teasing you. Any other business that we need to discuss? If not, I get somebody to move adjournment. Paul moves adjournment. Okay. But we do not need to vote on that. Or I guess we do. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Thank you. We're just checking online. People online seem to be in favor too. 12 out of 12. Thank you, folks. We're going to just reset things for the regular meeting. So give us a couple of minutes. Give us 5 minutes. If you want to come down, check out the table, and we'll get restarted with the regular meeting.